I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Bob.
Level with us. Hello, and welcome to the show where we have a cozy video game discussion every week. And this week, we are here to discuss how the Professor Layton franchise is not dead after all. And joining us once again is our good friend Bob from DearestHershel.
Hey there, folks.
Thank you for joining us, Bob.
Very welcome. Thank you for the invite.
We really can't do a Layton episode without you.
We cannot.
And in fact, the last time you guested with us, you had an enduring legacy because in almost every episode since then, we have a voice clip of yours. Do you know about this?
No, what's that?
So whenever we do our fake fan section, we have a little audio clip, and I think it's of you saying, "Oh, fake fan."
Oh, right.
There was a moment where I couldn't remember something about one of the Layton games, and you called me a fake fan.
Oh, right.
And
yeah,
so we eventually renamed our segment where we quiz each other who's the fake fan. So we like playing a little soundbite of you calling me out, and that's how we introduced the segment.
Well, glad to be of use.
We're very happy to have you back, Bob, and we are here to not only discuss the new announcement Level 5 made for Professor Layton and the New World of Steam, but also to kind of give our own ideas for where we think this franchise could be headed, or where we think it should be headed, in a hypothetical scenario of Level 5 allowing us to direct the next few games. So, with that in mind, let's start with the teaser trailer that we were just blessed with recently. Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. This is a new entry in the franchise, and we almost know nothing about it. There was about 20 seconds in a recent Nintendo Direct. But I guess before we talk about what we think of it, Bob, I want to ask you, what was your reaction? Like, how did you find out about the news, and how did you respond to it?
So I didn't watch the Direct myself, but I was in the kitchen. I just put my dinner in the oven, and my phone went ping, 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 ping. And I thought, what's that? What's that? Is that some sort of emergency? And so many people I know, even people that I'd not spoken to in years, had all got in contact with me on Facebook, on Discord, on Twitter, on sent me a text. New Layton game. There's a new Layton game being released. You have to check this out. You have to check this out. And I thought, well, surely not. You know, there's no way they've released a new Layton game. Lo and behold, I've looked at the trailer or the teaser on YouTube, and wow, there it was. I was amazed. You know, quite shocked really that they'd done another one, because I've gone on the record several times over the years and said there is zero chance we'd ever get a new Layton game.
Ooh.
So yeah, I'm amazed really that they've actually gone and done it.
That's so great. I was in the same boat, honestly. I was pretty convinced they had no interest in the franchise, especially because my understanding is Layton's Mystery Journey didn't do very well. And so what a surprise for them to say, hey, there's a new game and it's coming to the West with a little trailer. Marcus, do you want to kind of break down what happened in that teaser?
No, because I don't remember super well, but I think it's just Layton in a steampunk city turning around and looking suave. Is that right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. And then there were also some art, right? Two art images?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
So on the website, there's a little puzzle you can solve, and you can unlock little art of one of the city, and it looks similar to what we see in the trailer of this, you know, lots of steampunk-inspired buildings and contraptions everywhere. And then one of Layton and Luke in what appears to be a blimp or a hot air balloon kind of looking down at the city, which is very exciting. And that's all we know. Like, we don't know anything else besides the fact that there's a new game coming and what we've seen. The possibilities are endless. So with that in mind, let's talk about our ideas for what a new Layton game could be, either based on what we've seen, or a pitch for a game that we think would work really well in the series. And Marcus, I was wondering if you could start us off with that today.
Oh, sure. Sure. And to be clear, this is not what I expect New World of Steam to be. I mean, I have great hopes for it. I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited for the steampunk nature of it because Layton has always sort of skirted around the world of steampunk, and it looks like they're just sort of making it super overt. But if I were to make a Layton game, there are a few things that are most important. And the first thing is it needs to have an emotional core. Characters and plot points that we care about. Not something that's like pulled out of nowhere, not about someone's parents or anything like that. We're just the characters we care about. So I am thinking the story begins at a wedding of Flora and Clive.
Oh,
and they're,
wow!
They're tying the knot. Clive has done his time. Everyone's happy except Layton is sad because it's reminding him of his dearly beloved. And once everyone leaves, we're left with a scene of just him and Luke and Flora and Clive all talking about how wonderful the day was when Luke is kidnapped.
Oh, right.
And he disappears when a mysterious shadowy figure sweeps him away. So we got it all. We got romance, we got drama, we got a kidnapping. Like I'm really confident that this is the way to start off Layton of a New Generation. I mean, any questions so far? I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, right?
It's I don't really understand. A lot of people have an obsession with Clive after Our Man Future.
I'm not obsessed. I just think that he's the key to getting a good showing from the audience. People will be excited to see this.
People would be excited to see Clive return, but after the massacre at the end of Lost Future.
No.
I don't know if he's coming out of jail, Marcus.
I think he'd be in prison for a long, long time.
Maybe he's off for good behavior.
Flora will be if Flora marries in her 80s, maybe.
My question for you, Marcus, is what role will Flora have in this game?
Oh, she's the main character.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know.
Oh, right, okay.
Flora and Clive are the main characters. Layton becomes kind of like this brooding sidekick that comes in and out like Gandalf. None of this is important. The main thing is I think that an emotional core is important, something that people are excited to see and care about. And also, Layton being contemplative and sad, I feel like is a good place for him. But then the puzzles need to have a connection to the story. That's what I think is important to me with puzzles. Not always, but frequently. So Luke is kidnapped, and he's given a note that says, find the lost city of fill in the blank. There's another, because of course there is. And so he goes deep in the jungle, but the thing is there are tons of these factions, all racing towards the same El Dorado-like city. The thing is, to find the city, they need to solve puzzles along the way that lead to new secret passages and locations. And then finally, there needs to be some sort of outrageous, outlandish twist that strains at reason. So at the very end, he gets to the city of gold, and he finds out that all of this was an experiential excursion planned by Flora and Clive to make him feel less sad. And the entire thing is a literal movie set this time. But it turns out the ruins were real in a shocking double twist, that they actually did find the city in an attempt to find not the real city. So I've designed the perfect Layton game, and that's it. You're welcome.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
In all seriousness, I do think the idea of like having Luke kidnapped would be, I think, a great premise for a Layton game, especially because I mean it's immediate. The stakes are present. It's something Layton would get invested in. It doesn't have to involve tons of backstory because we already know Layton and Luke's friendship. So I like that aspect quite a bit of your pitch.
Yeah, it's very good. One of the reasons I think LMJ didn't perform so well though is because it was a Layton game without Layton at the helm. So I think even if they revamped the series, but with Flora as the protagonist, I still think it'd underperform.
I agree.
But it would be good to actually give Flora some actual screen time for a change, rather than just shoving them in the background,
Sure,
hiding
sure.
away in a barn or an office or whatever.
Well, if you think you're so good at coming up with ideas, Bob, why don't you tell us about your ideas?
All right, I'll see what I've got. So I did a video on this on YouTube a while back, but about a decade ago, 2012, 2013, I was friends with a group of people online that were all editors on the Professor Layton wiki. And as part of the friendship that we had online is that I made fan games in the Professor Layton style. They were all made in PowerPoint though, so they weren't very professional, and all the puzzles were riddles, and all the characters, the NPCs were all traced art that I'd done myself, and the backgrounds are all pictures of streets, but I'd put like a paint filter on them, so they looked a bit more like the Layton art style, but not quite. And I've talked about the first video on my channel, Professor Layton and the Lost City, before, but I wrote a second one as well, which was made in full, called Inspector Chelmy and the Mysterious Meeting, which I know sort of pitching this would go back on my point that I just made during Marcus's pitch, that, the Layton isn't the protagonist.
But the difference is that Chelmy is universally beloved, just a great character to be around. So it's a different vibe.
Fair point.
Sorry, continue.
But the premise behind that game was that Inspector Chelmy and a load of all the secondary and tertiary characters within the series all received an identical letter from Layton asking them to come out to a house in the countryside, as he had this big revelation that he wanted to announce. The game sort of followed Chelmy and the other characters as they tried to figure out what this big revelation was and why Layton needed them out in the countryside. And as it developed, you learned there was a sort of a sinister secret going on within the town, and Layton needed all these people together. But it turns out that it wasn't really Layton who invited all these people out into the countryside, and Chelmy has to prove that whoever wrote this letter had some sort of sinister intention. And then he has to try and find out what that sinister intention was, and going forward from there. This isn't a great pitch, not gonna lie.
No. This is awesome. By the way, that video you posted, I thought was just fantastic. Like, even though it was just, a game you had made in PowerPoint, there's some like actually really legitimately good ideas in it. And it's so cool and fantastic to see how even within those limitations, like it's still cohesive, if that makes sense.
Is it possible to post links to these PowerPoint games? Are they accessible to the public?
So Lost City is available to for anyone to view. I've not put Mysterious Meeting up yet, but I probably will in the future. After I do another video talking about that and how the sequel came about. As Silent Spell wasn't actually finished, I've not put it online, but I have shared some screenshots of the characters and the locations in the DearestHershel Discord server. So if anyone's interested, they can check it out there, I suppose.
Nice.
Absolutely, and I want to include links to your video talking about Lost City, as well as your channel, so people can go check it out themselves.
I think that if Layton was ever to get the treatment that Sonic was given in, was it Sonic Mania, that was really kind of by the fans in a lot of ways? It was literally fans hired to make a new Sonic game. Right. Well, I think that Bob is a good candidate for that. I think that if anyone could treat these characters lovingly and authentically, and also from the UK, we need a Layton game that's made from someone over there. That's what I think.
I know that when LMJ came out, the American offices were talking to YouTubers at the time, and they sent out hint coins and stuff to people that were talking about the game. So I've been refreshing my emails every day, come on, send me something. I'd love to be a part of the game somehow, but maybe if they sent me a hint coin, that'd be wonderful. But nothing's come through yet.
I don't blame you. In fact, a few days after it was announced, I work for a voiceover company. We're a recording studio, but also a talent agency. And as I mentioned on the last episode that we recorded with you, we've recorded with Chris Miller a couple of times, just for little advertisements and stuff. But it was really hard to track down, but I found a couple level 5 emails. And I sent out an email to them detailing, hey, we're a professional studio. We have worked with Chris Miller. We're close to where he lives. If you would like a go-to recording studio for the localization, we are available. It's because it's expensive to ship out, an actor to LA to record. So anyway, who knows if that'll happen? But boy, to work on the game would be incredible.
Oh, best of luck to you. That'd be fantastic.
Cool. Well, can I share my idea for a new Layton game?
Please do. Right? But if Luke isn't kidnapped, I'm not interested.
And if Inspector Chelmey's not the main character, we're going to have some problems.
Those two things, we have decided if we were to take one thing from each of our pitches. Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
Well, there is a couple things both of you brought up that I think are really important to the series that I would want to incorporate into my game. So I'm going to kind of go through this. I'm going to give the story premise, what I think the gameplay should be like, the setting overall, because I think atmosphere is another really important part of the Layton games. And then if you'd like, I can share the big story twist as well.
If we'd like, of course we want.
Of course we want to hear that.
So my idea for a new game would be called Professor Layton and the Inexplicable Mirror. And it begins, it takes place after Unwound Future, Lost Future, perhaps a year or two afterwards. So Luke is a little bit older. And he sends a letter to Professor Layton about a mysterious circumstance that is happening in the town he lives in over in the States, where he moved to at the end of Unwound Future. So Layton decides to come and visit the Tritons. And after briefly reuniting with Luke, both of them go to investigate a mirror. There's this magical emporium that has opened up near the town that Luke lives in. And everyone is abuzz about the grand exhibit of this emporium, which is called the Mirror of Magliore. And Magliore is the name of the town that they live in.
Oh, right.
And so this mirror is said to show you visions of your past. And so, of course, we need a MacGuffin, right? We need a cool thing to name the game after. And so I'm thinking just like the Elysian box, this would be kind of the central mystery of the game, is Layton and Luke go to investigate this mirror. And they go there and they stand in front of it, and they don't notice anything magical about it. It just seems like a really big mirror set up inside a large tent or structure. And so they kind of go home and talk about, I wonder why people found this so intriguing. But as they're walking, Layton catches a glimpse of what appears to be Emmy walking down the street, who they haven't seen in years, walking down the street and disappearing into the fog. And they try and track her down, but they can't find her. And so throughout the rest of this game, Layton and Luke start seeing other characters that they've encountered in the past, such as Flora and Chelmey and even Descalay and doppelgangers of themselves. But every time they try and interact with them or go and find them, they vanish out of sight. And so that would be the central mystery of this game, is what is this, why are they seeing things from their past? I think this would be a great opportunity to kind of homage the rest of the series, right? Like, Layton's Mystery Journey didn't really do that. Like, they kind of referenced some of the things that happened before, but this would be a great way to call back the series.
Yeah, in terms of fan service, I think that would be a brilliant way of getting people to see past characters without making them 100% central in the plot.
Right. Because there's so many characters, but I think it would be smart to kind of pare it down back to just Layton and Luke again. So this will still be their adventure, just like Curious Village, but you're still, occasionally seeing little, references to the past games.
I agree with Bob. That's good fan service. Not as good a fan service as a wedding between Flora and Clive, but I mean, you're close to perfection. You're almost there.
That could be one of the things they see. They hear church bells and then they run up and they vanish. So anyway, so that's kind of the hook. That's what I'm hoping. I think they could do something like that. That would be a great story hook. Like I mentioned before, I think one of the most important things that you need to nail down with the Layton game is the setting. And so I want Magliore to kind of be this New Orleans-inspired town, because it'd still be in the United States, but it would also have kind of, the French Creole more European influences, if that makes sense. I feel like that would still feel like a Layton game. Like it would still fit having this, mysterious foggy town near the bayou that they're investigating. It wouldn't feel completely outlandish to have them in a new country. So that's the setting and that's the atmosphere. And I want to make a note that I think the music should continue the amazing tradition of keeping the accordion, but we can add some little French flair in there, maybe some Dixieland band flair as well.
I mean, accordion kind of is French, and it is in a lot of French genres.
Exactly. Yeah. And then for the gameplay, I think this is also paramount to this new game. I think, like, as much as I prefer and love the DS titles of the series, I don't think we can really do that anymore with modern hardware, unless we make this like a mobile game. So my idea is, and this is what I had written down before the new teaser was announced, I feel like it should be you're controlling 3D models of Layton, and you should be walking around and actually freely exploring this town. And I know Level 5 can pull this off because they did that with their title Ni no Kuni, and I think it worked quite well in that to kind of be this RPG-inspired environments, and hint coins are still around, but instead of pixel hunting, it's rewarding you for exploring and interacting with things. And then for the puzzles themselves, I think the integration could work where you talk to a character who presents you with a puzzle, and everything except for Layton kind of blurs to black, and then the camera pans around to show Layton, and a thought bubble comes out, and the camera zooms in on the thought bubble, and that's the puzzle. I think that's how you could really do some really cool transitions, right, into the puzzles. And then for the puzzles themselves, Bob, have you played the newest WarioWare game? I know this seems out of left field, but WarioWare Get It Together?
No, not before, mate.
So the WarioWare series, again, it sounds random to bring this up in a Layton discussion, but the games are based around doing little micro games, little mini games. But this newest title introduced the idea of controlling a little character that interacts with the puzzles. So it's still a mini game, but you're controlling a character in every single one. And I think they could do that here with Layton as well, where you have this little chibi version of Layton inside the thought bubble that can, push blocks if it's a sliding block puzzle, or he's the one you control to go jump on the answer if it's a riddle and there's 4 options. I think this could work well for the hardware, where the puzzles are designed not having to use a touch screen, but you still have control, you can still interact with things. But then what would be great about doing it this way is that, when you solve the puzzle, it'll cut back down to Layton, who's been thinking about it, and then he does his poses where he got it, and then the camera pans right back and the world comes back into view. I think that would be a really elegant way of having this 3D game, but still have puzzles be the main mechanic. Any questions so far?
This is all very well thought out.
Yeah,
I spent a lot of time thinking about this.
A lot better than my pitch. Good job.
I mean, imagine how I feel, Bob. I came here.
You came here with a fanfic.
Yeah, I came with fanfic, which I felt pretty proud of, but Jared's game...
This is a fan fiction, too.
No, I want Jared's game. The difference is
definitely.
My game is like, that's cute. Yours is like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. It reminds me, I don't know if you've heard of Professor Layton and the Mansion of the Deathly Mirror. It was a Japan-only game.
No.
That was released on a very exclusive type of mobile phone in Japan. But Mansion of the Deathly Mirror, or some people know it as just Professor Layton and the Deathly Mirror, was considered lost media until about a month ago, when a full playthrough of the game, I think, was discovered. I think they found someone who had a phone with a full version of the game on it. So there are talks online about trying to remaster that by the fans to create Deathly Mirror. But it is very similar to your pitch in that Layton and Luke are invited, or do go to a mysterious location where there is a big mirror in the room. But this mirror allows you to talk to the dead, I think.
That's way cooler. I like that a lot more. Well, I am going to look that up right after we're done with this. That sounds very intriguing. I would be over the moon if they could, if the fans could remaster that. That's great.
So how about that
Yeah.
twist then, Jared? How about that twist?
Oh yeah.
I'd be happy to share the final twist. As Layton and Luke dig deeper into this mystery, they discover that there's this secret society that is kind of living incognito in this town. And they are spies. They are spies that can be hired by anyone, by governments. And these spies are masters of disguise. And they have these are the people that Descole and Don Paolo actually studied under. These are people they met and learned how to put on these very convincing, elaborate costumes. Because they never really explain that in the games. I think this would be a good opportunity to kind of unveil some lore where you have this society of people who can change their identity and make themselves blend in with everyone else. So this mirror is a one-way mirror, and they use this as practice for people who come in. They'll analyze them by looking them through the mirror, and they'll look up the intel they have and kind of practice by messing with them and bring. So they dress up as these well-known characters that they know that Layton and Luke have met before. But then you have that secondary twist, like Marcus was saying. You need a second twist, and I think it should be that Emmy is actually there in the town. That actually is Emmy, and they just weren't catching her. Because this town has lots of false walls and like hiding places where they're disappearing out of sight. But Emmy occasionally was actually Emmy, and eventually they figure that out, and she joins Layton and Luke at the end of the game. I think that would be a very fun way to cap up the story. So any thoughts, any feedback, I would love to hear.
I just want to play this game now. I'm so sad it's not real.
Well thought out. I mean, totally passable. Like that sounds like it could be a Layton game for sure.
So with all that in mind, it was so fun to hear everyone's ideas. How do we think this new game, the New World of Steam, what does it appear that Level 5 is going to do with their series? Because again, we don't know. We don't have gameplay. I don't know. What do you think?
I would love to have an open world Layton game.
Oh, that'd be great.
One of the things that I remember when the trailers for Miracle Mask first came out years ago, I remember really wanting to sort of, as it sort of showed the locations being in 3D, I'd love to sort of explore more of them, rather than just have it as, instead of the 2D painted backgrounds that we were used to, they were now 3D. It'd be so much more fun to be able to actually explore all them 3D areas. So if New World of Steam does let you play as a 3D Layton and explore a full 3D world, that would be amazing. And if it is going out on the Switch, I think there's less of a hardware limitation than we had on the DS and the 3DS, so we would be able to explore a lot more.
Seeing the art style really got me excited, because I think they've proven they can do really gorgeous 2D hand-drawn stuff, but kind of mix that with 3D models. And it's hard to pull off, but I think they could. I think they could definitely make a game that feels like the art of the Layton series. In fact, when they first showed it reminded me so much of that artwork of Layton and Luke walking through this kind of turquoise steampunk.
The concept art, I know what you mean, yeah.
That's the kind of vibe I was getting from it. So I would love it if they're somehow able to adapt that and make these incredible looking environments. I feel like the new world implies that this is in America. I don't know about you. I'd like to think this is Layton visiting.
I think that in the letter that Luke wrote to the end of Lost Future, saying that he's found a new world that he needs Layton to help solve the mystery with. If this was the new world, then that would be brilliant. It'd be a great way to take the series in a new direction. And even though the sort of the teaser sort of reminded me of more like a Parisian sort of steampunk world. The shot from above in the hot air balloon, I think could fit a sort of dystopian steampunk American city, perhaps. Especially with there's like a massive structure in the background, which looks like some sort of a futuristic steampunk stronghold. Not too dissimilar from Clive's Mobile Fortress, but with sort of more sci-fi elements into it.
What else? What else, Marcus? What else do you think they're going to do level 5 with this new title?
I think that the only prediction I'll throw out there is with a name pointing out the technology of like New World of Steam, I would imagine that there is some magnate, some Machiavellian evil magnate that is like lauded as the creator of all of this amazing technology, and they are going to be central to the plot. Either they are the one kidnapped or killed, or they are the one behind everything at the end of the day. That's a prediction I have.
I like that. Yeah. The central mystery, I don't know what it could be, but I think you're right. I think the setting's going to be paramount to it. To me, like, the Layton series already is kind of steampunk, but now they're like directly like emphasizing that aspect of the world. Like they kind of feel rustic, but they feel modern too. They don't feel like they're from the 1800s, but they could be, you know. I'd be very interested to see where they take that with this emphasis on like the technology.
And I'll be interested to see if the title stays the same as well. I remember when Aswan Legacy came out, it was Professor Layton and the super civilization of the A, which was how it directly translated from Japanese. So I'll be interested to see if New World of Steam does stick as the title, because it's possible they might change.
Okay.
Have you seen the Japanese logo for it, by the way?
I have. I actually like the Japanese logo quite a bit more.
Yeah, it's so much more stylistic.
It's so cool, the little steam engine. Well, it feels so good to talk about the Layton series in certain terms. To just say, yeah, it's not dead. There are more coming, at least one more. So here's hoping it sells really well, and we continue having Layton and Friends for the rest of our lives.
Hear, hear.
Bob, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It would be amazing if we could have you back on when this game comes out, whenever that ends up happening.
Oh, I'd love that, yeah.
Cool. Any final thoughts? Anything else anyone needs to get off their chest before we wrap it up here?
I want to explain why Clive and Flora is a good relationship.
And with that, it's been so great to talk with you. Until next time, I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Bob.
And we'll level with you next time.